Kathleen. That was fantastic. So I'm going to do one last quick demo here, and we'll let you guys hang out because I think that's the more fun part of these. Thanks. Perfect. Thank you. Cool. How's everyone doing? How's everyone feeling? I know it's a marathon here, so we'll try to keep it moving. And I'm actually going to switch to this main screen. Change. Awesome. So I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of building compound systems. So I think this is something that a lot of people think about or talk about. How do we build GTM systems, not just one-off workflows that get better over time, or how we approach these types of problems. And transparently, we're still like very early in this type of world where you can do this kind of everywhere. Every company has the ability to do this, not just the Vantas and the Ramps and the teams that have 15 engineers working only on this problem. And who am I? I'm Toor. I'm one of the co-founders of Deepline. What is Deepline? We're a go-to-market toolkit for agents like Claude Code and Cowork and Codex. So what that means is essentially when you used to have to go set up your own APIs or build a database, you can now just type that into Claude Code. If Deepline is installed on your computer, it's a CLI. We will fill in all the gaps. We'll find the right API. We'll find the right enrichment provider. It's one API, one billing. So you don't manage your own accounts. You can just use our API, and we are buying the data from different providers for you, as well as integrations with your CRM, et cetera. And then we've basically just been filling in the gaps of, if you want to build GTM systems for yourself, if you're building internally, what are all the missing pieces you would need? So there's a lot of similarities to something like Vercel, where you can just go deploy an app on Vercel and it works out of the box. We're building that for GTM. And so why build GTM in code? Why not just use the existing tools that are out there? Here's what we've seen just switching from our previous environment of building everything in no-code tools. We had a customer we did some consulting last year. We had one customer where it took us about 4 weeks to build an entire TAM, score everything. We did a propensity model, like a real ML one, which seems crazy in hindsight now. And it took us about 4 weeks end to end. It was a very manual process. We redid that exact same process, got better outcomes within 3 days, and the propensity model was completely Claude generated. And it caught things that we did not capture and also generated everything we thought of. So the outcomes were pretty much identical, if not better. It was much faster. It was much less painful. And the reason that was possible is because we structured the data in a way that made it easy to do that. And we can repeat that for every customer now. On TAM building generally, we see our customers report it saves them about 9.5 hours per week if they're doing a lot of TAM building. If that's like one of your main things. And when I say TAM building, I mean going and searching multiple different providers for accounts, contacts, and figuring out which ones are a good fit for you. It's a very manual process in a lot of industries right now. You don't really know where that data lives. So what they're saving time on is discoverability and then repeating that process ongoing rather than doing it manually. And then the last thing is because you're able to do this programmatically, and that's a big piece of what we're seeing is the programmatic access to all of these tools lets Claude Code and Codex do things much faster than you could ever do. And it opens up new methods of solving problems that weren't really doable before. So a super simple example is previously you would probably just use one data provider to find companies or contacts. You would just like use one, maybe two. Now you can do 15, 20 all at once. You can exclude from different ones and just have API calls generated that find all the potential good customers across 15 to 20 different data sources and aggregate that into one data set magically. It does feel like magic sometimes because it's just so easy to do. And when you think about what it used to be like, I'm going to be that old dude who says in my day it took us 4 weeks and it was miserable. But that's kind of what we're seeing in terms of impact. And so I'm going to show you one quick example of something that a lot of people buy, and that's why I think it's a good one, of why would you want to build something in-house when it's so trivial to go find a service that already does this off the shelf. So there's hundreds of warm outbound tools, and what warm outbound means is when someone comes to visit my website, in the US at least, there is de-anonymization providers, which tries to guess who that person was. And then if I visit your website, you might immediately send an email to me saying, hey, saw you looking at our pricing page. And it's pretty commoditized, but why would I want to build internally? There were a couple different reasons. One, I wanted to be able to use our existing context on why a particular user or contact would be a good fit for us. I wanted it to match my rules, and I don't know which providers could actually match those rules. And those rules were largely like, what use cases do they have? What hiring signals exist? Doing all of that in one of these tools usually is pretty painful. And then the second piece was, I wanted to borrow things that I had already done before. So I've already solved a lot of the problems in this process. I know what signals I care about. I know what qualified looks like. I already know how to send an email. I already have infrastructure for that. And then I already have a database where I store information about our users. So if I already have all the other pieces, it feels weird to go have one workflow, go work somewhere else and not get the value that I've already built internally. And so the way we kind of think about it is that the sending of the email is not really the outcome. It's just another tool to help us find customers that need our services and advertise to them or market to them. And so why is this problem so hard? There's one really core reason, and it's storing state between all the different systems that we use. So who uses more than like 5 go-to-market tools? Yeah, probably most of you at any large company are using a lot of different systems. So I have 2 movies that I think capture what I feel when I'm building these systems and the ways people try to use AI to solve them. So number 1 is Memento. So I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, but the premise is the guy has amnesia and he gets tattoos to remember what is going on. And this is what it feels like when I'm putting stuff in context files and saying, all right, just please don't do this again next time. Remember to look at that tattoo. I hope this works. And it's just not very structured. I don't really know what's happening. And I wake up confused every morning when it doesn't do what I want it to do, or I forgot why I even put that in there. And then the other one is 50 First Dates mode, where I don't even have the like ambition to store the information. And I'm like, I'll just fix it later. I'm just gonna keep going. And then I realize that I've done this 10 times for this exact same problem. And that constantly happens when you're building with AI and when you're building systems. You're like, I've already solved this problem, but I don't remember why it's not working now. And so when we built Deepline and we're building infrastructure around Deepline, we're really thinking about like, okay, how can we make it so nobody ever has to think about the difficult aspects of why these revenue systems are hard to build. And state is a really big part of it. And actually, if you guys were here last time, Shashank from Vanta did a really good talk about like revenue state machine, like where one lead is in the funnel, and if anything changes, everything else has to change. So keeping track of what is actually happening, what's important, that's across all of your different systems is pretty critical. And so how do we do it? We use databases. So we spin up a Neon database for every single customer that is owned by them. So they can just arbitrarily store information for every use case. Pardon me. And the benefit is everything gets logged automatically. You don't have to think about it. And it's super flexible. A lot of systems, like a CRM, have a lot of constraints. You have to like add a field. You have to get approval from operations. It might impact someone else's work. And the database just gives go-to-market engineers a lot more flexibility. So what this does, it saves you money. You don't pay for the same enrichments over again. If there's a new thing that you want to do, you know where that person is in the funnel. You can just continue them on the workflow in the new step. If something didn't work, you know that it failed. You can retry it. And then lastly, like when something happens that matters, all the systems now know because they have access to that data as well. Cool. So quick demo. I'm going to walk through. So when you guys were checking in, we actually used our workflow system to send that to a database in the back end. and what our database system looks like. So as you were checking in, we were getting webhooks. So we see that someone checked in about 14 minutes ago. That one didn't work, but Daniel was a little late. I will forgive you. But every time someone checked in, it looks like we're getting a couple multiple webhooks. It's storing that information and sending to a database and storing it locally. So this is our workflow system. You actually don't do anything in the UI. It's entirely in Claude Code. So if I want to create a workflow, I have one here where I was just creating one. Yeah, so I'm gonna add another one. And it looks like I closed that tab. So it will stop asking questions, just go. And what that is gonna do is it's gonna use JSON to create this configuration. And you can see this configuration. I can copy it and paste it back into Claude Code. Claude Code is our primary interface. And there's pros and cons to that, but generally it just makes things easy to get started. And then when someone checks in, we have a webhook in Luma that is sent here. We normalize that data, capture it, send it to the dashboard. This is storing it to our database. And then I had it do some stuff in HubSpot that isn't really important right now. And we have a lot of different workflows. So I kind of think of these in two types of objects. We have workflows and then plays. Plays are kind of repeatable atomic units of tasks. So a play might be something like find someone's personal email or take a LinkedIn post and turn it into a list of people who engaged with it that I'm gonna probably use more than once in different situations. And then a workflow is taking multiple different plays and putting it together. So we have this warm outbound workflow that we were just showing you on the website. And this one takes a visitor from someone visiting my webpage and then parses that information, makes sure that we're checking the database and that we're not sending it to the same person over and over again. All of these like little tasks that I don't actually have to really think about because Claude Code's doing the work, but I tell it what I'm trying to accomplish, and then it's filling in all the required steps. So you can see here, it does a lot of individual steps here. It's qualifying, it applies my ICP filter. All of this is backed up by code. It's a JSON configuration with JavaScript that you can commit to a GitHub repo, and then everybody has access to it. So I can repeat this for every customer. If I'm an agency, I can modify it and try a different variant if I'm a team that wants to A/B test something. So you can continually just try different things. And then lastly, the email waterfall. You can combine these like core concepts. So this is gonna go try to find the user's work email because all we have is that they visited our website. It's gonna check a bunch of different sources. So the magic here is really that this configuration is completely done in Claude Code and very easy and flexible. So we're going to show two more things. One, all the data can be stored to this database. So we call this our customer database. You can kind of get the configuration up here in the top right, and then you have access to anything you want to do in there. You can store information. Everything that you run through our system is automatically logged, so you can replay things, you can see what you've done. If somebody else already did the task that you're trying to do, it's really just like a shared brain between your entire company. And then here I have when someone is visiting the website, when they did it, and then whatever information we got from the provider. And then I can say, like, we sent an email to them, don't worry about it. And if they come back to the website, we don't care because we've already done this problem. So that's just like the back end of it. But it also enables pretty cool things. Like I can combine all the signals that we already have about everybody here. If people have used our application before, I can see that. I can see if we've done a meeting before. So Iggy at Squad, we had a meeting. Lev and the default team we've met with, and they're using us as well. So I can see who's using the app if we've had a meeting. And I also decided to go and do some research on folks. And so this is looking at everyone's background. And I actually wanted to do a present for one lucky guest. And I wanted to get a super personalized present for each individual person. So everybody has a gift hypothesis of what would be a good gift for them. So I did that for everyone who was potentially going to come. And then I filtered it for everybody that checked in here. So when I press the select winner spinner, it will choose a random winner, and I really hope this picks someone that is actually here. And then they'll get the gift that we provided, or cash if you prefer, if my gift hypothesis is wrong, and Deepline credits. And so let's press the button. Daniel and Gulo? Awesome. So what I decided, a Hoya Creative 49mm lens filter set. Do you do photography? I don't. Oh. Damn. Well, if you want to start photography, you have a lens filter set. We'll find a better one for you. We'll rerun it. But yeah, down here you can see exactly what happened, the company fit, the persona, what's the role. All of this information was stored in the database before, and then this Reusable app is kind of combining our database. It's a custom application for this use case, and then when the check-in happened, it's getting added to this in real time. So now we know that Daniel's here, and therefore he's qualified for this outcome. This is very similar to what we're doing for warm outbound. It's, okay, well, we already have enough information about what our ICP is. We know what we're actually trying to accomplish. Now we have this signal that they visited our website, use all the information from all the different data sources to take action that helps them figure out if this is a good fit for them or otherwise. Perfect, just two, yeah, I'll keep it short here. So when we see these, I've now done like hundreds of these implementations. We've built it with going on like 20 or 30 customers. And what I get asked a lot is like, all right, when should you use an agent? When should you use code? Can the agent just do this? Should I use OpenClaw? My general answer is you probably shouldn't use OpenClaw for most tasks. The non-deterministic part of this is the exploratory part. Like when you don't know exactly what to do, start there and use agents for that. You should throw every possible variation at Claude Code or Codex and just have it find the best options, test different things, and get to like a, hey, here's my recommendation. And then once you know what you're trying to accomplish, then you deploy as code. And that's the workflow that generally works really well for us and our customers is explore and then deploy. And so I've talked about a bunch of stuff, but I know it actually isn't as easy as I just made it look. It is very easy, I will say that, but where does it actually start breaking down? The two parts that are not really solved in this like Claude Code environment, the agent native environment, evals. So when I say evals, I mean defining what good looks like. That's actually most of our jobs now is just writing down, this is what we're trying to accomplish, and if this happened, it would be a perfect outcome. And I hate doing them, and my co-founders are here. They probably have noticed that I never do them when I say I'm gonna do them. But the reason that they're so painful is you actually have to sit there and think. And when everything else you're doing is kind of just like throwing stuff at an agent and it gets to go do cool things, the hard part is thinking and critically thinking about what really matters and what good would look like in this scenario. And there's three kind of outcomes here. When you have a really good, strong definition of what good looks like. The other thing I would highly, highly recommend if you're not doing it now, always include what bad looks like. Have as many negative outcomes as you possibly can along with those positive outcomes. The difference between those two is usually where the AI is extremely good at helping you find patterns. So always have negative outcomes also. Most of the time I just say the model will figure it out and this takes 10 times as long. Don't recommend that. And then slow, you're like, oh, I'll make evals as I go. The amount of value of just sitting down in front of a process and defining what good looks like is hard to quantify because every week it's probably like 10 hours for me I could have saved by just writing it down first, and it's a lesson I still have not learned and will continue to not learn. Yeah, but evals and then the chat iteration loop, when you don't have that really good outcome, you spend a lot of time just going in circles, and the tooling around that doesn't really exist when you're building GTM systems. If you're building a traditional agent, you have like LangChain and hundreds of logging tools, but GTM is qualitative. So what qualitative looks like is not as easy to define, and those tools are maybe overkill for what we're doing. So you end up not really having a good tool set. These are the two areas that we're spending a lot of time on of how do we make this more reliable and observable so you know when your systems are good or bad. Last things I can probably, yeah. So last thing, just summarizing, what does this entire system look like? Going from the before and after, previously you were doing static tables, sales nav. Most people are like moving past that regardless of whether they're using a tool like Deepline or not. But the main thing that I think changing is it used to be just like bigger campaigns over time. So fewer campaigns, but they're big efforts, spend a lot of time, really invest. The ability and cost of doing small campaigns at scale is really, really powerful. And I would highly recommend just testing out like, hey, can we do twice as many campaigns? Can we do 4 or 5 times as many? Because that micro segment approach scales much faster than I think people realize. And the content is usually the constraint there, so I'm sorry for designers. But generally, you can move really quickly. So being targeted and smaller is really paying off for us. And then the two things that I think are still being built, but will kind of close the loop here, is the consistent state across systems, having one shared backend for everything. You don't actually need to like structure it too much. The agents will figure out where different data points are and can bridge the gaps. But the last piece is automated cleaning and improvement. So automated improvement of workflows. I have a task that goes through my warm outbound every day and says, hey, which ones look good, which ones look bad? Go change the workflow to improve it. So I have a workflow to improve my workflows, which makes me feel like I'm bad at my job, but it does actually work, and I continually just keep adding more checks like that, and we have seen tons of improvements. It's the same thing we're doing on the product side. Most product teams are trying to build these coding factories. The same thing can exist on the go-to-market side of, hey, these 10 things are working. Have a separate workflow that helps you do that. That's been pretty trivial to set up, honestly, and the results have been very impressive as well. Perfect. So yeah, I think the point of all of this is to do less manual work. We should be doing work. We should be doing the parts that are fun and critical thinking and exciting for us. I do think the shift in this market has given me more energy when I'm doing go-to-market now. It used to be kind of a slog and like, oh no, I have to go do my outbound today. And now it's like, I get to build a cool system to go do my outbound today. And it takes me more time, honestly, but that's just part of the game at this point. Awesome. So yeah, if you guys haven't tried out Deepline, the match boxes all around have a QR code that will take you to a promo code as well. If you want to get started, feel free to reach out after. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Any questions? Yeah. Deal. You're in.
I was really interested in what you mentioned on the problem of shared states. And you mentioned I can give everybody a deal on DB because it's more flexible than the CRM. But then I noticed that you had like HubSpot as a step in your workflow. So my question is like, yeah, why aren't you just using a DB for Deepline itself?
Yeah, that's a great point. The way I kind of think about it is the CRM exists for a very specific set of use cases. So in my mind, for most companies we work with, that's like the sales rep focused user interface. Like if it's in there, it's for sales to take action on. So all the random information and like dumb data that I'm making doesn't need to be in there. And honestly, it's just gonna confuse them. If I threw every single signal you possibly have into your CRM, it's unusable. So I like somebody described it to me as like a staging data warehouse. We also have a data warehouse, but it's basically like, hey, here's a draft of all the information. It's kind of like a holding database that helps us figure out what actually matters. And then when it's useful enough or we know that it matters for a sales rep specifically, let's push it to the CRM. Awesome. Yeah, anyone else? Yeah. Yeah, no, we've explored all the agents and frameworks. I'm currently on a Codex binge right now. So I think we're designed to be agnostic to whatever front end you want. A lot of our biggest customers actually just use our APIs. So if you just want to build a system, one customer is Modal. Modal has production infrastructure. They're wrapping our kind of APIs and SDK and just building normal production apps. And that's just how they prefer to use it. We have folks who are hosting in like custom lang chain agents. I think Deep Agents is the name of that harness. So we're pretty agnostic. We build the toolkits and the APIs and the CLIs that sit behind those harnesses. And we do see better results with different tools over time. I think the biggest piece is, yeah, it changes, honestly, like day over day. We tried them all. Cloud Code has the most adoption in this market generally, like go-to-market engineering. I think that will shift a little bit. I do think Codex has made a lot of progress. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a great time. There's also this really cool experience of your product getting better because of what someone else did. So the model gets better, and then it's like, wow, Deepline's really good. And you're like, you're welcome. Awesome, yeah. I can do 2 more questions. Yeah, in the back. Yeah, I don't think, yes, we've solved it. How we solve it kind of differs by the type of user that we're working with. So here, this is gonna run a quick example. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So it's kind of our demo workflow. And it's gonna go try to find, so what I did is Deepline Quick Start, and it's finding 5, let me make this bigger as well. 5 CTOs at New York startups with work emails and LinkedIn profiles. We pick the providers to use, but generally just standard enrichment. And what we do is we pop up a playground. So this is interesting because it's locally hosted. You can kind of see the 127. So this is actually running on your computer. Claude is really good at generating HTML for your particular use case. So we tested out this idea of like, all right, what if we just did disposable user interfaces for whatever problem you're solving in real time, and then spin that up, and it has all the relationships. Same thing, you can see kind of what's happening, how it's defined, the results that are getting pulled, the JSON behind it. But over time, what we're seeing is like, this works at a small scale, but now what if you need to do this for 10,000 rows? This will still work, but this interface, like the table interface doesn't really make sense for that anymore. So what's the next version of that? We are now doing like the cool part is we have that database already built out. So we can run queries on the database, we can run analytics of like, hey, how do we score the coverage of this task that's running in real time, and give you like summary metrics, where should you pay attention, is this working, is this better? So yes, we're making a ton of effort on this. I think the 2 biggest pieces of feedback we've received from customers is visibility of how do I actually know what's happening. Claude Code and these coding agents do stuff. You come back 30 minutes later, and you're like, I don't know why you did that or what happened. And sometimes it's right, and you're like, this is magic. And sometimes it's wrong, and you're like, wow, I've never been more disappointed in you. And the takeaway is you kind of just need to know what's happening in the back end. And reliability and repeatability is the second piece of, okay, if I ask you to do a task and I'm happy with the output, I want you to do it like that next time also. And so skills are supposed to solve that, but we're actually seeing that you need to be more structured, and that's where we come into like plays and scripts to be like real code that Claude triggers instead of trying to guess what you want again. Yeah, Andres. Mm-hmm.
Then the command line might be the next thing that gets.
Yeah.
How do you think about that? I have no idea. I have no
Yeah.
bias towards that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're 100% right. So the question was like, how does this UI get disrupted? How does this version of what we're doing get disrupted? We're really focused on the primitives that we believe will not change over time. It's storing data, it's moving data between different systems. But I think we already have noticed that the interfaces are changing more quickly than we can keep up. So it's Claude Code, and now you want Slack, and you also want the same experience, and now you need this enterprise, and now it's chat. And okay, I just want to upload an image of what I need. And so it's already kind of shifting. And I think what we've noticed is there's basically companies at each bleeding edge that are doing. Profound's pretty far up there. Owner.com is actually the one that I see. And I don't think as many people know about them because they're a little bit smaller, and they're also in a market of restaurant tech that isn't quite as sexy. YG was here last time. They are generally like 6 months ahead of most teams that I've seen. So we kind of just look at what they're doing and like, all right, right now they're working on more programmatic interfaces. So they're actually getting rid of Claude as the primary thing, and they're building production systems similar to Modal. And this is like a Series C company doing it. And that's not their core function. That's not what they're really good at. But they believe in it so much, and they see the ROI. So I think it's just going to continually be guessing, checking, seeing what's happening. But yeah, the interfaces are changing extremely quickly.
So follow Kyle on LinkedIn is what you
Yes, follow Kyle Norton on LinkedIn. I'm constantly blown away. Their tech team is extremely good. Yeah. YG Hong. Yeah. I'll send the notes after. The recording from last time is really good. So what he talked about was they built a ML model to predict who would answer the phone for cold calling, and he did it without actually knowing ML because he just threw a bunch of data at Claude Code and it worked. So yeah, that's also how they operate, and that's what we'll do now. Awesome. Anyone else? Otherwise, thank you guys again. We'll send out the recordings. Really appreciate all the speakers as well taking the time. If the speakers could come up and get a photo, that would be appreciated. Awesome, and we have the space till 9 p.m., so feel free to grab some more pizza. I think we had some more arrive, and then drinks. Let me know if you need anything. Would love to chat after